Hi everybody. So I keep seeing in discussions in different places that people keep saying, I don't understand where variables are used in the real world. And then I got an assignment at work today and I thought this is a perfect way to show you how I use them and how easily they're used in applications every day at work. So what I'm going to do is go over to Excel and tell you that I completely made these numbers up, but it is the basis of what I had to do today. So I was supposed to figure out what the average age of students were at the school. So I got a list of the birthdays and the frequency that they happen, and then I'm supposed to figure out what's the average age of our students. So first thing I had to do is think about, well, if I know what year this person was born, then I can figure out how old they are. So I'm going to hit over here, equals, because everything in Excel is equals, and I'm going to put in the year 2022. But what I don't want to have to do is subtract 1959 and subtract 1960, 1961, whatever. So I'm just going to click on the cell which says subtract this number, this year of birth, and I'm going to hit enter. So it did the math for me. And you're like, well, that's not that big of a deal, but it really is, because then I can click and drag and it'll do all the other years. So what happened is this A2 is a variable. So it says whatever was in this column, that's what I want you to subtract. And when I drag it, Excel's pretty smart and it knows to reference whatever cell aligns with the row that I'm in. And I had a lot of rows. I actually shortened it for me to make this video. I did another command in here because ran between where I made it randomize the numbers. So all this data is fake. But anyway, now you can see the ages of the students that I made up in our group. So the oldest was 63 and the youngest in this fake group of students was 18. It's college, so we have a big difference in age groups. So that's the first thing I see. And let me go to the top of the column and let me say that's the age. So to find the average, I can't just say add them all together and divide, because I really need to keep track of the fact that I have all of these students. So I'm going to go right here and say, think about if I wanted to add all these up, which I honestly don't want to do. So I go back home and I do this thing called an auto sum, and it adds it all for me. So it says this is 2,915 fake students that I just made up, but kind of close to what I was looking at. I was looking at thousands of students today. So what has to happen is I have to figure out the average age, which requires a little bit more work. If this says I have 5 people that are 63 and 4 people that are 62, kind of when you think of taking an average, let me type it in another screen. Think about if I had like 22 and 24 and 27, how would I find the average? I would add them up. I would add 22 and 24 and 27, and then I would divide by 3. So at the end, and this one tells me the average was 24. At the end, what I need to do is add up the ages of all of these students, and I want to divide by this 2,915. So I'm going to write here that I'm going to do fx. So what this is I'm going to take this 63 and multiply it by 5, because I had 5 people that are 63. So instead of adding 63 5 times, I'm not going to do it. I'm going to be lazy and I'm going to have it do math. So I tell it equals, and I click on the cells I want to do, and then I say times, and then here's the other cell. So do you see how it's 2 variables? It's these 2, whatever's in each of these places, and it multiplies it together. And then again, I just say, okay, do that again, because I don't want to have to multiply any of these. At no point am I picking out my calculator, right? I just multiply it up. And then I say, add that all up, and it does it. So how I would get the average, and I'm going to type the word average here so you can see what I'm doing. I take this whole total and I divide it by this whole total, and it tells me the average age of these students was 35.30 or 0.338. So about 35 is the average age. So another thing I might want to know is the mode, like what's the most frequent, like what happened the most, right? So maybe the average was 35, but maybe I had a lot of people that were 22 or something. So how I figure that out is I'm going to go under here and I'm going to type equals and max. And what I want to do is go through this frequency of how often these ages happened. And I just want it to tell me what occurred the most times. It says 134, so I look 134 looks at actually people being 32 years old. So this says my mode was 32. I'll show you one more. This one's a little weird. I don't know if it'll make sense or not, but we'll try it. The median says, what's in the middle? So the middle is usually like you line things up. So let me add a couple more here. So the median says, like, if I had 22, 24, 27, 29, 31, what's in the middle? It would be 27. If I look, it's in the middle. 22 and 24 are lower, 29 and 31 are higher. So it says what's dead in the middle. Now, how did I get that? Well, there were 5 things. I divide by 2. So again, it might be like more steps than you want to know. And then I rounded up to 1. So I said there were 5 things. I divide by 2, it's 2.5. So I look for the third person. That gets a little harder here because I have so many people. So if I want to go in order from youngest to oldest, I would start down here. These are my 18-year-olds, and I had 18 of them. So I hit equals, and I click on 18. And then I add to that my 19-year-olds. And then I just kind of grab that, and I move it up. Notice I have 2915. Just like I had 2915 here. So I'm going to hit equals 2915, divide by 2 to say, where am I looking? I'm looking for the 1458th person. I can see 1458 would occur somewhere in here which says that person is 34. So I have 3 different ways to tell me what the average age was. If none of that kind of made sense, all the stats part, that's okay. That's what stats class is for. But I want you to see how much I use variables. I didn't ever type in a number myself. All I did was tell Excel how to do it. So having the variables really was important, even though I'm just doing simple arithmetic as I'm using it. So I hope that helps you see how math is used in everyday life and makes you value what you're learning a little bit more. Good luck.